Good afternoon. My name is Ilya. This is my partner Carl. We represent Blue Diamond Security Consulting Company. We're going to do some presentation trainings for our healthcare heroes working in the hospitals. Obviously, dealing with a lot of different people, different situation, and they need some basic self-defense training dealing with a violent confrontation. Again, our philosophy number one is if the confrontation, physical confrontation, is avoidable, avoid it by any cost. De-escalation, separating yourself, leaving the area, escaping, any of those choices are better than being engaged in the physical confrontation. But if physical confrontation is inevitable, we're going to show you a couple of ways to deal with that. Granted, we have many different options and different trainings that we can last for days and weeks, but for this video, we're going to use a couple of techniques of open hand confrontation, and then we'll do some basic handcuffing techniques for maybe security guards or the bodyguards or whatever the personnel can be at the hospital that will be dealing with detention and control of the subject. As I say, I have about 27 years of training law enforcement professionals in self-defense techniques. Carl's got about 17 years of training martial artists and jiu-jitsu and self-defense for civilians. So we have a little bit of pool of expertise and knowledge so we can utilize for this training. So the first one, I specifically chose Carl as the defendant just to show, you can see there's a little slight size difference. So he will have to rely heavily on his technique versus trying to muscle me up, because that's not going to be successful for you, Carl.
Yeah.
So the first technique we're going to be dealing with, and those are surprise attacks, and they can be anything from attempt to take you down the ground and control you there, or drag you into some location. It can be attempted sexual assault, or whatever the intent behind this, doesn't really matter. It's just the situation is dangerous. You need to deal with it right now and escape. Mm-hmm. So we'll do some attacks from the back. We'll do first the well-known, it's called bear hug. This is something, if I have to attack Carl, this is probably, for me, coming from a wrestling background and everything, I'm here, I can lift him up, I can drag him, I can take him to, I can sweep his legs and take him to the ground. So he will have to do something to avoid all of those options immediately. Take it.
One of the big things when someone's gripping around here, the longer I take to do something, the more likely I can get lifted up, dropped down horribly, sometimes on your back, neck, that sort of thing, can be rendered unconscious. So immediately, right when I feel hands go here, I'm going to lower my base heavily by widening my legs and dropping my bottom. Other thing I'm going to do is start to control a hand. I'm just going to start pushing it down my leg. So go ahead and re-grip again. So he goes here, he grips, heavy, heavy, heavy. And as I do this, I'm breaking his hands off and refacing him. You don't want to break the hands off and then just walk over here and get clubbed in the back of the head. So it's very important that when you disengage, you're also facing the person with your hands up, prepared for that. I'll do that once again. He grips, heavy, heavy, break, and I face him.
And the great thing, it works immediately. I'm grabbing my wrist as hard as I can, and I can control. Hips are so much stronger than my forearms. It's going to work every single time. Mm-hmm. Another one, very common attack, is that old school ground headlock. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, we're kind of the same height, so realistically, probably between two of us, it's not going to be the way to go. If that was a smaller female or a smaller framed person, yeah, it's very effective tool. So the headlock is, I'm coming over here, controlling, and from that I can try to drag him to the ground, try and drag him away or start punching him in the head. So again, he's got to do something instantaneously.
Yeah. So when you're placed in a headlock, a couple things you want to control is don't get flattened on the ground really fast. Another thing you need to control is potential for strikes. Even if they're not striking, I like to remove that from the equation in the first place. So as Ilya goes to headlock me, I can't reach to his hand here, so this hand goes on the inside and I push so I can then grip. Now, go ahead, try to punch me. It's going to be very difficult. Next, my free hand is going to control his hand. I'm going to look up to create a hole here. Even if he's really, really, really strong, I can really look up. Back out over here. I have his hand behind his back. And I can just shove him to disengage. I don't need to necessarily engage, but you can also use this to take the person down yourself. So again, he goes here. And disengage. Notice I'm still facing the general direction. You don't just turn away, but you want to create some distance from the assailant.
Okay, awesome. And that's the first two initial techniques we're going to show you. Now let's move to handcuffing.